Hello, platform team working on an ability for k8s to choose which Kubernetes namespace should be used for workspaces. And during this sprint we merged first part that allows users to see available Kubernetes namespaces. And it's what I would like to show now. But note that user is not able to specify namespace for workspace yet, but only get a list of available namespaces. So k8s now has two properties that allows admin to control where users are able to run their workspaces. One is namespace user specified allowed, can be true or false and indicates if user is able to choose any existing namespace on a cluster. And another property is default namespace. If user defined namespaces are not allowed, then default one is only permitted namespace. If user defined namespace are allowed, then it's like admin recommendation where a user should run workspaces. So we start with k8s workspaces as a default namespace and user define it and not allowed. And here we can see Openshift console. The current developer user doesn't have any projects or namespaces. The same user is logging in k8s. Since the corresponding UI is not in place, we are using Swagger to test our API. And if we use new Kubernetes namespace service, we can see that user can choose only k8s workspaces, and this is a default namespace. It actually doesn't exist on a cluster, and it's why only default attribute is available. Then k8s will try to create a new namespace on cluster during the first workspace start. If we create this k8s workspaces projects, and if we refresh namespaces information, we can see that it exists and it has a phrase active, it has description and display name, and it's only available namespace to run users workspaces. And the next configuration that I would like to demonstrate, it's using placeholders in default namespace, and we will use username placeholder. This value will be personalized for every user. We can also use user ID and workspace ID as placeholder. So we save this configuration and we restart our k8s to make our changes actual. We need to wait a bit until new k8s will be run. Now it's ready and we move back to our developer user and refetch available namespaces. We can see that we see developer k8s namespace and it's a default one and only available. So now we try to allow user defined namespaces, and we'll see what is namespaces in such case. We are specifying user namespace, user allowed namespaces as true, and we're starting our k8s. Now our configuration changes are applied and we try to get available namespaces again. We can see here two namespaces. One is developer k8s, which is default one, and another it's k8s workspace that we created before. Let's try to create one more project. If we try it out again, we can see that a newly created namespace appeared here as well. That's all. Thanks for watching.